Hello everyone, I am here to bring you the preview for the Cincinnati Viking game. And the Bengals, they've struggled a bit, and they are 32nd, they're last in total offense, only averaging 277.2 yards a game. They are 26th in passing offense, 197.8 yards a game. They are tied 19th in allowing sacks, allowing 33 of them to happen, and they are 31st in rushing offense, only 79.4 yards a game. 30th in yards per carry at 3.5 yards a carry, and they are 28th in third down offense. That could get better, to say the least. And they are 19th in total defense, allowing 345.5 yards a game. They're 8th in passing defense, however, only allowing 213.4 yards a game through the air, and they are tied 8th in sacks this year with 36. They are 32nd in rushing defense, however. So they're last in that category as well as total offense, and those are the only two things they do rank last in. And they allow 132.1 yards a game, and they are tied for 17th in yards per carry at 4.2 yards allowed. They are 26th in third down defense with 42%. Now, their injury report, there are some names on this injury report that they have. They have 3 linebackers out in Vontaze Burfict, Kevin Minter, and Nick Vigil. They are very thin there, to say the least. And Vontaze Burfict, that one relieved me a little bit because that was the one thing that I thought could really derail this team going into the playoffs was injuries. And I know the Bengals, especially under the Marvin Lewis tenure, have been a little bit of a dirtier team. But the main one is Vontaze Burfict. And that one concerned me, especially if the game got in hand, because it could realistically kind of get in hand at some point in this game, and then Teddy went in, and then Vontaze takes a cheap shot at him for something that would be bad. So it's a little relieving to see Vontaze Burfict on here, just because I feel like for the most part, a lot of the Cincinnati Bengals won't care, and then Burfict's just gonna do Burfict things though. And all 3 of those guys are out: Vontaze, Kevin Minter, and Nick Vigil. The other one that's out is Dre Kirkpatrick on this defense. That is their best corner, and by far he's their best athlete on there to me. Well, one of them at least. In the secondary, you can throw in William Jackson, but in terms of actually playing the position, Dre Kirkpatrick, he's explosive, he can cover, he actually has a nose for the football a little bit. And so him being out with a concussion is a little helpful, especially when you consider Thielen. We like to put him in the slot, and there's no linebackers there anymore. So, and then the other one that's out, which came by today, Joe Mixon. He's out with a concussion, and as we already said, they're already the 31st rushing offense in the league, and now they lose Joe Mixon. So, another issue for them. TJ Johnson, a backup center, he is doubtful to go, and Sean Williams, a safety, he is questionable. So they're thin at a few spots going into this game. Now, Minnesota, they are 6th in total offense at 369.3 yards a game, 10th in passing offense, 248.2 yards a game. They are tied for 5th in sacks allowed at 20, although I pinned 4 of those on Sam. And they are 7th in rushing offense, 121.1 yards a game, and they're only tied for 18th in yards per carry at an even 4. And they are 2nd in third down offense right now at 46%. And so going to the defensive side, they are 3rd in total defense, 293.4 yards allowed a game. They are 5th in passing defense. They allow 205.1 yards a game, but this may shock a few people. They're only tied 13th in sacks with 32. I know that might seem a little low, but to me, this defense is not a flashy defense. They're not always going to get the interceptions or all of the sack numbers. They're just kind of going to do everything right, and that's how they're going to win. They may not be the flashiest. They may not get all the attention you think they deserve, but the reason for that is they're not fun to talk about. They just kind of go out there, they do their job, and they get off the field, and they do it consistently. So some people may be shocked by that number. I'm really not. And they are third in rushing defense, 88.3 yards allowed a game. After last week, it's a little shocking that it almost didn't go up by more, allowing 216 yards. And sixth in yards per carry allowed at 3.8 yards a carry. They are first in third down defense, however, at 28%. Now, the injury report for the Minnesota Vikings got a little better today, especially with the Kyle Rudolph situation. But Mackenzie Alexander, he's out. I don't view this as such a big issue because we still have Terrence Newman, Tremaine Brock can come off the bench. You still have guys on the bench who can actually provide depth here. So that one's not as big of a loss. Riley Reef, ankle injury, he's doubtful. Kyle Rudolph, he's another ankle injury guy. He was upgraded to questionable after being doubtful. Then some reports had him being ruled out, and then later a little bit they said, "Oh no, he's questionable." So I'm figuring this is a game time decision, and they did sign Kyle Carter off the practice squad after putting Blake Bell on IR after a shoulder surgery. So that is probably a game time decision. I'm gonna expect that he doesn't go, and even then, I think we're probably okay with Kyle Carter and David Morgan. Even though some people will be like, it's a little concerning. I don't find it as concerning because to me, David Morgan is a blocking tight end who can catch the ball well. So he's not an unreliable receiver out there. He can catch the ball. He may not run better routes. He can't do what Rudolph does, no. But he is a better blocker than Rudolph, and then Kyle Carter's a much, much more dynamic athlete than both of those two. So I think it could still work even without Kyle Rudolph in the game, although red zone could suffer a little bit. But he's questionable. I expect it to be a game time decision, but I'm not entirely sure if he can go. And Emmanuel Lemur, linebacker, depth guy, foot, questionable. And the one thing I would like to say on this, there was no Elflein or Remmers on this, which means for the 32nd ranked rushing defense, we get possibly our two best run blockers back. So if you have Latavius Murray on your fantasy team, you may want to play him. And obviously Rudolph was upgraded to questionable from being doubtful. And now some of the notes I have here, they are missing 3 linebackers on a team that really couldn't stop the run already because they're allowing 132 yards a game. So getting our guys back, it should be helpful there, especially. So we should be able to run the ball pretty consistently, and they're thin at both corner and safety, with Kirkpatrick being out and Sean Williams being at least banged up with a hamstring injury, so you might be able to test him deep. So I'm kind of thinking we can set him up for some consistent play action passing game after we kind of establish the run game. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. We might be able to get some more explosive plays. This might be a Diggs kind of game just because we possibly could push the ball vertically down the field. And in return, Keenum, I believe, is set up for a bounce back game after a 3-turnover game last week in Carolina. Because, I mean, even just looking at the numbers, being 26th in third down, as opposed to Minnesota being the first in third down offense, you kind of figure Case can probably work some magic here and there. And then Remmers and Elflein, since they are coming back, that's another reason why I think we should be able to do the play action passing and establish the run game. And the one guy I don't want you guys to really sleep on is the fact that Riley Reef will not play, I don't think. I doubt he plays. And even though I think he's another guy that's probably going to be a game time decision, I don't think against this team in particular you want to put him out there just because it's, for the most part, even if you lose this game, you're in great shape, and I doubt you will just because they're the Bengals. And I don't think you play Reef this game. I think you need to play it safe, rest him up for next week, and where he will probably be playing against Green Bay that has an Aaron Rodgers possibly for us. I don't know if, depending on how this game goes against Carolina for them. But so Rashad Hill at left tackle, I'm expecting him to start, and he's not going up against any slouch, Carl Lawson, the rookie out of Auburn, he has 7.5 sacks this year. So that's not a slouch guy to go up against, even though he's a rookie. So I still don't view that as necessarily the most favorable matchup. But if we can at least establish the running game, which we should be able to kind of temper down this pass rush and not make us one dimensional. And then defensively, we have Rhodes versus A.J. Green this time around. And last time he went up against a physical corner, he kind of got him in a headlock. So kind of hoping doesn't escalate to that point. But if he can get inside his head a little bit and kind of take him out of the game, that takes Andy Dalton's number one threat, which kind of would temper things down, especially since they really can't run the ball. And since we're third in rushing defense, we should really be able to stop this team in the run game, which kind of points to everything like, hey, you make them one-dimensional. And if we make them we saw what happened in week 1 if you make them one-dimensional. Dalton had a horrible game, and he had turnovers left and right. So you might be able to make him force some horrible throws every once in a while, and hopefully you can capitalize. So, especially with that tackle situation they have going there, it's not good. It will possibly remind you what we had last year. It's really, really bad. So being able to get the pressure and kind of pin our ears back with Griffin and Hunter might really be able to kill them. And third down defense, once again, like they aren't very good on that at offense at 28th. Only 34% of the time they are converting. We are first in the NFL in third down defense. So we should be able to get them off the field pretty consistently, if not turn them over, which I know I said this last week, but Cincinnati is -8 in turnover differential. This could be the turnover game that we get, and possibly a defensive or special teams kind of score just because of field positioning and all of that stuff, and being -8 for a defensive score really wouldn't be the most shocking thing. And prediction-wise, I'm going Minnesota over Cincinnati 24-10, and till after the game, I bid you adieu.